When Asa was born, the hospital room was filled with quiet wonder. She cried, yes, but not like most babies, just a soft, gentle sound. One shout cry, then silence. She blinked slowly, yawned deeply, and fell asleep as though she had been waiting for a bed all her life. The nurses smiled as they wrapped her in a soft blue blanket. She's peaceful, one of them whispered to Eliza. Eliza, still breathless from labor, looked at her baby girl with awe. She was tiny, round-faced, and already carried the look of someone who had no interest in stress. Her small finger coiled gently as if holding on to a dream. Even her breathing was soft, like the rustling of feathers. Eliza smiled and whispered to her, "Welcome, Asa." And just like that, their journey began. In the weeks that followed, it became clear that Asa had a special gift. She loved sleep more than anything in the world, more than food, more than play, more than the sound of her mother's voice. She would cry softly when she was hungry, but before the bottle touched her lips, she might already be dozing off again. Changing her diaper was like preparing a teddy bear for a nap. She would lie still, stretch once, and drift away. Even during bedtime, with warm water and gentle splashes, Asa would blink slowly, yawn, and let her head tilt slightly to one side, ready to return to her quiet world. Elisa began to observe this with a strange mix of amusement and worry. Older babies roll, kicked during bedtime, and forced sleep like warriors. But Asa seems to welcome sleep as a best friend, as if dreams were sweeter than the real world. By the time Asa turned 6 months old, her pattern had not changed. When other babies reached out for toys or bounced in excitement, Asa preferred stillness. She would sit quietly, then lower her head to her lap and sleep. Sometimes her eyelid would drop even before her mother finished saying good morning. She had the gentle patience of the moon, never rushing, never shouting, always at peace. Yet Eliza often found herself wondering, why are you like this, Asa? Why does the world not pull you in a way it puts others? She had taken her to the doctor, who only smiled and said, "Some babies are just calm sleepers. Don't worry, unless she stops growing or feeding." But even with that assurance, Eliza sometimes stared at her daughter while she slept and felt something deeper. Not fear, not frustration, but curiosity. A kind of quiet mystery surrounded Asa, like a story that hadn't fully revealed itself. On her first birthday, Eliza dressed her in a soft yellow dress with little white bows. She placed a small cake in front of her and whispered, "Happy birthday, Asa." Asa looked at the candle, blinked, then she gave one little smile, one yawn, and slowly lowered her head onto the floor beside the cake. Asleep, just like that, Eliza sat beside her and stroked her soft coils. "You are not like other children," she whispered, but maybe that is not a bad thing. She had begun to learn that Asa didn't need much to be happy. A quiet space, a soft blanket, a mother's arms, and sleep. Always sleep. But still, a question lingered in her mind. What does she see in those sleeps of hers? What kind of child chooses silence and sleep in a world full of noise? Whatever it was, Eliza knew one thing. Asa was not just different, she was rare, a gentle soul with sleepy eyes, and secret only time would tell. Asa grew, and so did her love for sleep. By the time she was 5, Eliza had tried everything. Early bedtime, cold water beds in the morning, loud alarm clocks, but nothing worked. Every Sunday morning was a battle. "Asa, wake up. It's time for church. Asa would turn in bed, press her cheek into the pillow, and whispered 4 more minutes. Eliza would sigh. By the time you say 4 minutes 3 times, service will be over. Some Sundays, Eliza would dress her half asleep and carry her to church. Some days, she gave up and left Asa behind. Even when Asa managed to come along, things didn't get better. The church was always filled with joyful singing and loud amens. But in the middle of the praise, Asa would sit down, close her eyes, and drift away. Her head would fall slowly to one side, her arms would go limp, and before long, she would be fast asleep. At first, people thought she was praying until they saw her start to lean sideways, then backwards, then slide under the chair. One Sunday, the usher walked gently to Eliza and whispered, "Ma, your daughter is sleeping again." Eliza felt her cheeks burn. Oh no. The usher tapped Asa on the shoulder. "My dear, are you sleeping?" Asa jumped up quickly, eyes still heavy. No, I'm praying." She stood up and began whispering, "Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord." But her voice was shaky. Her eyelids were still fighting. After a few minutes, she sat down again and fell asleep mid-prayer. It became a pattern. Asa would always come late to church, if she came at all, and when she did, she slept during worship. She slept during announcement. She even slept during altar call. Sometimes she would fall forward and hit her head on the wooden pier. Sometimes she would snore loudly until people around her started giggling. And each time, someone would tell her mother, "Your daughter was sleeping in the house of God again." Eliza began to feel embarrassed. She loved her daughter dearly, but every Sunday now came with whispers, stares, and gentle corrections. One afternoon after service, Eliza sat Asa down at home. "Asa," she said softly, "do you know how many people asked me about you today?" Asa blinked sleepily. "What did they say?" "They said you were sleeping during preaching again." Asa rubbed her eyes. "I didn't mean to. I closed my eyes to pray. Then the next thing, I was dreaming." Eliza shook her head gently. "You can't keep doing this. Church is for worship. You're not supposed to turn into your nap corner." Asa looked down, ashamed. "I'm trying, mommy, but my eyes just go." Eliza didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She sighed and pulled her daughter onto a hug. "I just want people to stop talking. You're not a bad child, but sometimes it's embarrassing." Asa held her mother tight and whispered, "I'm sorry." But even after that talk, Asa still struggled. No matter how early she slept the night before, no matter how excited she was for Sunday school, as soon as the choir started singing softly or the pastor began preaching gently, Asa's eyes would flitter and the sleeping would begin. And so the question remained in Eliza's heart, stronger now than ever. Why does Asa sleep like this? Is it laziness? Is it a strange habit? Or could there be something more, something hidden in all her dreams that no one understands yet? It was a sunny afternoon when Asa boarded the city bus after a long day of errands. The seat by the window was empty, her favorite. She sat, placed her bag on her lap, leaned against the glass, and within 5 minutes, she was gone, fast asleep. Her head rolled gently with the bus, and a small strand of hair stuck to her lip. She didn't notice when passengers came and went. She didn't hear the conductor shouting, "Last bus stop." The only person who noticed was the young man beside her. He had boarded 3 stops ago and had been watching in quiet amusement. She looked peaceful, too peaceful. The boys finally reached the last bus stop. Everyone got down, but Asa, still asleep. The driver grumbled, "Someone wake her up, abeg. I mean, please." The young man gently tapped her shoulder. "Excuse me, miss." Asa stared. Another tap. "You are at the bus stop." She jumped up suddenly, blinking in confusion. Oh my God, did I sleep?" He smiled. "Very well, too. You almost missed your destination." She sat up straight, embarrassed. "I'm so sorry. This happens a lot. I noticed. He chuckled. You even smiled a little in your sleep. She turned red. Please don't remind me. They both laughed. Amobasi, he said, offering his hand. Asa, she replied, shaking it gently. They walked out of the bus together, talking and laughing like old friends. Before they parted ways, Obasi said shyly, would it be okay if I got your number? I would like to talk again when you are not asleep. She laughed, only if you promise not to judge me when I doze off mid-conversation. I would take that risk. From that day, they began talking on the phone every day. Asa, for someone who struggled to wake up, was surprisingly active on the phone. She would laugh loudly, tell stories, ask questions, and send voice notes. Obasi was drawn to her, not just her voice, but the softness in her speech, the honesty in her silence, and the gentle way she saw the world. He had never met someone so real. After a few weeks, he said, let's go on a proper date, you and me, Saturday afternoon. Asa smiled through the phone. Yes, let's do it. Saturday came. Obasi wore his best shirt and arrived 30 minutes early. He sat by the window, ordered water, and waited and waited and waited some more. After an hour, his phone rang. Asa, hello Obasi. Obasi, Asa, where are you? Is everything okay? Groaning, I just woke up. You slept again? She sounded truly sorry. I set an alarm, I promise, but I must have turned it off in my sleep. Obasi sighed, then laughed. Only you can sleep through excitement. I'm on my way, she said. Please wait for me. Obasi shook his head, still smiling. I should have planned our date inside a dream. That way, you had already been there. 35 minutes later, Asa arrived, breathless, messy hair but smiling. You waited? She said softly. Obasi stood, opened a chair for her and grinned. Of course, I don't meet girls who sleep on buses every day. They both laughed. The date went on beautifully. They talked about books, life, funny habits, especially hers. I know I'm lazy in the morning, Asa admitted, but I'm trying. Obasi looked at her. I don't mind. You're worth the wait. But even as love slowly bloomed, Eliza's, Asa's mother, was still worried. To her, nothing has changed. Asa still misses church. Still, arrived late. During important events, she slept more than she should, but Asa didn't seem to notice that something was shifting quietly in her life. Because of the first time, someone saw her not as a sleepy embarrassment, but as someone worth loving. Even if she came late, even if she missed the first half, even if she snored a little on the bus. One quiet evening, Asa and Obasi sat on a park bench beneath a tree, watching the golden sunset. There was a soft breeze in the air, and birds flew gently across the sky. Asa leaned her head on Obasi's shoulder and said, Obasi, there is something I want to tell you again, just in case. Obasi turned to her. What is it? She sat up, looked into his eyes and said softly, I sleep a lot. I'm not trying to be lazy, but it's who I am. I forget things. I show up late. I miss alarms. I fight it, but sometimes I lose. So in case you didn't know, I sleep a lot. Obasi smiled gently and held her hands. I know, he said. She blinked, you know. I've watched you sleep at weddings, during voice calls, inside the cinema, in the backseat of taxis, even during our movie nights. Trust me, I know. Asa looked away, a little embarrassed. I just don't want you to be shocked one day and say no one warned you. Obasi leaned closer and whispered, Asa, I'm not marrying your sleep. I'm marrying your heart. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a tiny box. She gasped. He opened it slowly. A silver ring with a small blue stone. Asa, he said with a trembling voice, will you marry me? Sleepyhead and all. Tears filled her eyes. Yes, on the morning of the wedding, the house was buzzing. Makeup artist, decorator, and photographer were moving about, but Eliza stood quietly in a corner, holding her phone, staring at Obasi's number. She stepped away from the noise, found a quiet room, and died. Ring, ring. Hello, Mommy Eliza, Obasi cheerful voice rang through. She smiled softly. Good morning, my son. You sound calm. Everything okay? There was a pause. Then Eliza said gently, Obasi, I just wanted to say thank you. Obasi was silent. Eliza continued, thank you for loving my daughter, for choosing her even with all her sleepy ways. He chuckled quietly. She warned me, ma, over and over, but I'm not afraid. Eliza's voice trembled. Sometimes I worried if anyone would ever understand her. People used to complain to me. Even I got tired sometimes. But you saw her differently. Obasi's voice softened. She's different, yes, but she's peaceful, kind, real. I have never known someone who makes silence feel like music. Her sleep, it's part of her, but it doesn't take away her light. Eliza sniffed. That night, I've seen it too. Even when I didn't understand her, I knew she had it. I just pray someone will see it. You don't have to worry anymore. Obasi said gently, she's safe with me. A tear rolled down Eliza's cheek. God bless you, Obasi. Love her, be patient with her, and remind her to set 3 alarms. They both laughed through the tears. I will, ma, I promise. As the call ended, Eliza stood by the window and looked out at the sky. She whispered, thank you, God. My sleepy little girl finally found someone who stays awake for her. Later that day, as Asa walked down the alley, eyes wide open, for once, Obasi smiled at her with all his heart. And for the first time in a long time, Eliza didn't feel embarrassed. She felt proud because Asa, just as she was deeply loved. The wedding was beautiful. The honeymoon was short but sweet. And when Asa returned home as a married woman, something in her changed. For the first 2 weeks, she was a new woman. She woke up early. She cooked breakfast before Obasi's alarm rang. She swept the house, folded laundry. Eliza called and couldn't believe what she was hearing. Asa is up by 6 a.m. She asked. Yes, mommy, Obasi said proudly. She even washed my wet clothes and hung them outside. Even Asa was shocked at herself. I'm doing this, she whispered one morning, holding a mop with confidence. Marriage has woken me up, literally. But exactly 2 weeks and 3 days after the wedding, everything changed. It started in the kitchen. Asa was preparing stew, tomatoes blended, pot on fire, oil sizzling. She chopped onions quickly, but halfway through the slicing, her eyes started itching. She blinked once, twice, then slowly leaned back in her chair and slept off. The onion knife still in her hand, the onion half chopped, the oil burning. She woke up 20 minutes later to a smell of smoke. She jumped up. Jesus. She ran to the pot, turned off the gas, and waved the smoke away with her apron. When Obasi returned home, the windows were open and Asa was spraying air freshener around the house. He sniffed. Did something burn? Asa bit her lips. Maybe just a little. What happened? She looked at him, very serious. It was the onions, so they were too emotional. I started crying, and next thing I knew, I blanked out. Obasi stared at her. You blamed the onions? Yes, she said, nodding firmly. I think they were spiritual. Obasi laughed so hard he dropped his office bag. The next day, she promised herself she would do better. She started mopping the house after breakfast. Music was playing. The sun was shining through the windows. She mopped the living room, then the corridor, then sat for one small rest. She leaned on the mop for support and slept off, flat on the floor. When Obasi came home from work, he pushed the door open and gasped. The floor was half wet. The mop was beside her. Dirty plates were in the sink. The pot still had uncooked rice inside it. And right there in the middle of the room was his wife, coiled up on the ties, fast asleep. He walked over slowly, crouched beside her, and touched her shoulder. Asa, she stared, eyes blinking. Honey, she whispered, confused. You are on the floor? Asa sat up quickly. Oh my God, what time is it? Almost 7 p.m. She looked around. The house looked like a tornado passed through it. I was just taking a break. She started. Obasi held her hand and helped her up. Baby, I know you try, but this is next level. Asa looked down, ashamed. I'm sorry. He pulled her into a hug. You are not lazy. You are just Asa. But that night, as they sat in the kitchen, eating noodles and egg, Obasi looked at her seriously. Asa, what if something catches fire next time? I will set a timer, she said, holding his hand. He nodded. And what if you sleep through the timer? She paused. Then I will set a louder one. They both laughed again, but in their hearts, they knew something has to change because love was strong, but sleep was stronger. 9 months after the wedding, Asa gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. They named him Kosi, short for Kosi Sochukwu, meaning as he pleases God. The day he was born, Obasi held him in his arms and whispered, my son, my joy, you will grow into a strong man. Asa, though weak and exhausted, smiled, but behind her smile was fear, because she knew herself. She knew sleep was not her friend, it was her master, but she vowed to fight it for Kosi. At first, things went well. Asa was always beside her baby. She breastfed, changed diapers, and rocked him to sleep with lullabies. But slowly, the exhaustion crept in. One afternoon, while breastfeeding, Asa leaned on the edge of the bed and dozed off. Her eyes shut, and baby Kosi, still sucking, wriggled gently from her arms and slid down the soft mattress to the floor. Then he began to crawl, innocently, quietly, towards the door. The front door was slightly open, and the stairs outside were steep. It was the househelp Blessing, who screamed, Auntie Asa, baby don't dey go stairs. Obasi, who has just returned from work, ran like a madman. He grabbed Kosi just inches from the edge. He was shaking. He turned, stormed into the room, and saw Asa still sleeping, her breast still slightly exposed, lips parted. Asa, he shouted. She jumped awake, confused and terrified. What happened? Obasi didn't say a word. He held Kosi tighter, breathing hard. I just closed my eyes for 1 minute. 1 minute? He barked. You were snoring, Asa. I didn't know. You never knew, Asa. This is not about bone stew or more begin. This is a child. Our son almost crawled into death because of your sleeping problem. Tears rushed to Asa's eyes. I didn't mean it. Obasi looked at her, pain in his eyes. His voice lowered. Asa, please, go to your mother's house. Just for a while, let me breathe. She stood up slowly, shaking. You are sending me away? I'm asking you to rest, to fix yourself. I love you, but I need to protect our child. Asa's voice broke. I can change. Obasi turned his back and walked away. That evening, she packed her bag. Blessing helped her carry the baby's thing. Asa didn't speak. She didn't eat. She didn't cry. Until the moment she reached her mother's door. Mama opened the door and gasped. Asa, what happened? Why are you here with bags. Asa fell on her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. Mama pulled her inside and shut the door. She listened to the whole story in silence. When Asa finished, her mother's eyes were red. So you mean your husband sent you home because you slept off with your child? Asa nodded. Mama stood up slowly. I warned you. Mama, please. I told you. This your sleeping sickness. I told you when you were still in secondary school that it wasn't normal. When you slept during morning assembly and fell inside that gutter. I told you, you needed deliverance. Asa sniffed. I thought it would go with marriage. Her mother shouted, Go. Asa, sleep doesn't fear wedding gown. She sat down beside her daughter, tears in her own eyes. I'm not angry you came home. I'm angry you didn't tell me how bad it had become. Asa wept again. The next morning, Asa sat in her mother's living room with puffy eyes and swollen lips from crying all night. But something has changed in her eyes. Her mother noticed it. Asa, Mama said softly, you've been quiet all morning. I want to fight for my family. Asa said, staring at the wall. I don't want to be the wife people pity. I don't want my son to grow up without me. Mama placed her hand on her daughter's shoulder. Then fight, but not with tears, with action. That same week, Asa applied for a job, not as a secretary, not as a nanny, as a night security guide. The supervisor, a slim, bird man named Mr. UCHE, looked at her file and raised a brow. You sure you want this kind of job? You'll be standing all night too. Yes, sir. No dozing. I understand. He narrowed his eyes. Even men, they quit this post too. I'm ready, she said, with quiet determination. Mr. UCHE chuckled. Now you sabi. First night on duty, she wore a blank oversized uniform, boots too big for her feet, and carried a torchlight. She stood stiff at the gate of a large fenced compound. 11 p.m. Sleep whispered to her, but Asa bit her lips. She pulled out a small bitter cola from her pocket and chewed it like gum. She hated the test, but she hated failure more. 12 a.m. She walked around the compound. 1:30 a.m. She saw a rat and almost screamed. 2 a.m. Her eyes started closing. She slapped herself hard. She dipped her face inside a bowl of water behind the gate. 4:15 a.m. Her knees shook, but she whispered to herself, for Obasi, for Kosi, I will not sleep. She survived the first night, the second, the third. 2 weeks passed. Her boss called her aside. You surprised me. Even the male guards they doze. But you, na like soldier you dey stand. Asa smiled faintly. I have something I'm fighting for. She used her small salary to buy a phone for video calls with Kosi. Every evening before work, she would call and sing. Obasi barely spoke. His answers were short, but he listened. He noticed her face had changed. No makeup, no long lashes, no filter, just raw honesty. One evening, she sent a message. Obasi, I've been awake for 2 weeks straight. I just want you to know I'm trying. Not for apology, but for our son. She didn't get a reply until 3 days later. Obasi sent her a short message. I saw the video of you on duty. I see you. Kosi kissed your photos this morning. Asa covered her mouth. Tears rushed down. It was a cool Saturday morning, and Asa stood in front of the gate, a bag on her back, her heart pounding in her chest. Obasi opened the door slowly. He wasn't smiling, but he wasn't angry either. He looked at her from head to toe. She looked stronger. Her shoulders were firmer, her eyes clearer, her hands a little darker from the night duty sun. But there was fire in her soul. Asa, he said. Yes, Obasi. Her voice cracked. He looked over her shoulder at the keke that had just dropped her. You came back? No, she shook her head gently. I came to ask if I can be allowed to come back. Obasi stepped outside without a word. Asa walked in with trembling legs. Their son, Kosi, ran from the corner of the house with joy. Mommy, she broke down in tears as she hugged him. That night, she cooked her husband's favorite, bitter leaf soup with pounded yam, and she didn't sleep off. She scrubbed the bathroom, mopped the floor, arranged Kosi's toys. Then she sat in the living room, eyes wide open, head upright, fighting the old ghost of sleep. Obasi came out from the bedroom. Around 1 a.m., he stared at her. Asa, are you okay? She smiled lightly. I'm okay, just confirming that I have not slept off. He gave a small smile and went back inside. The first week back, Obasi would randomly peep from the bedroom door like a school principal checking on a stubborn student. Sometimes he would stand behind the curtain and just watch. Sometimes he would say, Asa, you dey doze small? She would quickly jump up and say, no, I was just blinking with both eyes. They would both laugh. Their home began to feel like home again. She didn't just stay awake, she became attentive. She started timing her choice, taking short nap when Obasi was home, and even drinking zobo with ginger because someone on TikTok said it helped with alertment. She put sticky notes on the fridge. Stay awake, Queen Asa. Don't burn that stew again. One evening, Obasi returned from work and paused at the door. The house was sparkling. Asa was sitting with Kosi. The smell of jollof rice and fried plantain filled the air. She looked up and smiled at him. Welcome, my husband. I'm awake. Obasi chuckled and walked towards her. He didn't say anything immediately. Then he knelt down beside her and hugged her from behind. Thank you for fighting for us. Thank you for not letting sleep destroy our home. Asa blinked back tears. It almost did, but God helped me. Bitter cola too. They both laughed. Asa was still herself, funny, sweet, sometimes dramatic, but now she was intentional. She didn't wait to be begged. She planned meals, cleaning beaks to avoid getting overwhelmed. Sometimes it's not about being perfect, it's about being willing to fight, to change, to grow. And when you have someone who still loves you enough to peep at you just to see if you are asleep, that is love too. Asa finally found her balance, and from that day forward, she stayed awake in love. Thank you for watching this story. Hi besties, what moral lesson did you learn from this story? Kindly share your thoughts with me in the comment section. Give this story a thumbs up. Share this story to someone who might be interested. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you've not done so by now. Until I bring an interesting and educative story your way. Bye.